getting it.
Let's call our meeting to order. We'll have the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The first order of business is reorganization of the board. So what we will need is a motion for the board chair. A nomination.
I would like to nominate Andy Stone.
Okay.
Chair.
I'll second.
Okay. Is there any other nominations or discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed. And then the next item is the vice chair.
I make a motion that we elect Franklin Hibbs III as vice chairman of Bardstown City School.
A second.
That's the second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it. Congratulations.
Absolutely. Well, thank you and welcome, everyone. We'll go to item 2 for the approval of the minutes for last month's meeting, December 15th, 2015.
So we approve the minutes as presented.
Go ahead. Do we have a second? Are there any other discussions or questions? Take a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Ayes have it. Item 3, confirmation and approval of claims.
Present our claims to you this month. We have a total claims of $405,784.46. Our Fund 1 amount is $197,263.40. We do a little comparing to this time last year. We always like to do that to see where we are. Our Fund 1 last year was $96,238, so we're about $101,000 ahead of that than where we were last year. Taking a closer look at this, it's nothing to be overly concerned about. What we have found out is that due to some timing of payments back in December of 2014, 15, when we compare to where we are, I guess it would have been 14, excuse me, when we compare those two, there were timing of payments there made that we did not make some payments during that time, made them the previous month. But there were a few other things that would account for about $40,000, and about $60,000 of that was this time around our insurance for workers' comp was right at $30,000, and it was not paid in this period last year in January. Also, we'll talk a little more about this in the financial report, but our share of a part of that share of our wiring for the technology upgrade was almost $22,000. We run some money through our foundation from here to the foundation due to our American Express reward points. That was about $6,000. So there were several other miscellaneous things, some basketball trips that we took, boys and girls, that will be reimbursed to Fund 1 from their activity accounts. So all in all, things are in good order. Our Fund 400, our debt service, our total is $61,340.98. If you have any particular questions about any individual item, I'd be glad to address that at this time.
Can I get a motion for approval of the claims?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Ayes have it. Item 4 is our financial reports.
In our financial report this month, I want to share a few items with you. First of all, getting back to the technology project, the upgrade and the Wi-Fi that we were speaking of earlier, the total cost of that, and I've shared some of this with you, but it's we're sort of, the rubber's hitting the road today. We're making some of those payments. That total amount was $443,485.88. The great news on that is that our share of that total amount was about $40,000 by the time we finished with our grant and some reimbursements. As you noticed in the claims, we did pay $21,000 of that so far. So that's something I wanted to share with you. Very good news there. And we also have had a long-standing agreement with our American Express. We pay the vast majority of our bills with American Express. We pay that off immediately, of course. We never carry any interest over. And in doing that, then we receive reward points. And we're really pleased to be able to tell you that we have received $6,163. Of course, several years back, we agreed to just basically put that money over into the Bardstown Foundation. Then that money goes back into our classrooms through grants and through many other possibilities. So some more great news there. And then talk a little bit about our tax receipts for the year. The total outstanding property tax at this point is $290,110. And how that breaks down, there are 524 bills remaining out of 6,244. So that means we have about 8% of our bills that are still out. For this time of year, that is a good place to be. Our next deadline will be January the 31st, and we will expect, as in the past, this community typically comes in somewhere around the 2% range of not paying. So we do an excellent job of getting that amount collected. We had more people than ever to take advantage of the 2% discount, meaning that they paid early this year. And of course, that's also good news for them, and it's good news for us to be able to get that money into our accounts. So that's our financial report for January.
I noticed that the Chromebooks, quite a bit of transactions that I was reading the other day where they have now surpassed the iPad as the preferred choice for school districts. Is that pretty much true here as well?
Mr. Bowen, speak to that.
I would say yes. We found that the Chromebooks operate more like a laptop platform where they have an actual keyboard and they have greater capacity to for the students to go online through their Microsoft 360 accounts and use PowerPoint, Word, Excel, and things like that, where the iPads cannot do those things. So that's the biggest thing. They're a very useful classroom tool.
And they're inexpensive. Relatively.
They are. They're absolutely cheaper.
$200 a piece or something?
Yeah, they're cheaper than an iPad, actually. So
That's great. Any other questions or comments of financial reports? Moving on to item 5, the superintendent's report.
We've got some special guests with us today.
All right.
We're going to ask them to come in at this time. They can just, I'll let Ms. Fox just sit them wherever she likes. As they are coming in, you notice just how awesome this group is. How really we are. Just look at the bubbles right there. It's an awesome group. And I'm going to go ahead and get started. The month of January is when we celebrate our school board appreciation in the state of Kentucky. And it's a time when we're able to recognize our Board of Education members for all they do for us. We appreciate every day, but today we want to make a very special day out of this. We want to say thank you for all you do for us throughout the year. Your job is becoming more and more difficult, and a couple of reasons for that. Has a lot to do with the way the state funds school systems. Also, the uncertainty surrounding the state's high-stakes accountability. We know right now with Senate Bill 1 there's a lot going on, and I know there's a lot of school board members and superintendents are a little bit nervous right now about what's going to happen to our current system. This makes it a very tough job. I don't know if you've ever thought of yourself this way, but when I asked a couple of our elementary classrooms to help me with the creation of some board appreciation cards, they came up with an idea, and they referred to you as superheroes. We made a card here, They say that you have superpowers. You're dedicated, you're courageous, you're inspiring, you're caring, and you're supportive. You're unsung, and you're behind the scenes. Never really quite thought of you that way, but after giving it some thought, I couldn't agree more. Many activities behind the scenes that take place in your job as Board of Education members. Your job has few perks, pays pretty low. For the most part, it's a thankless job on the surface. Your satisfaction comes from being a public servant. It comes from seeing this school district be successful in many different ways. When I reflect upon the contribution that you make to this school system, it's occurred to me that many people in our community probably would be quite surprised if they knew what you did in the course of a year. I was trying to think of how I might describe your work, and in my mind, I kind of see it like this. You're a bridge between the school community and the school system. And what you do is you gather information in a multitude of ways. You review test scores, you analyze financial documents, you speak with parents, speak with staff, speak with community members. You make observations of the work that we do here. These are just to name a few of the ways that you collect information. Then you meet together and collectively as a Board of Education, you decide what our future is. You decide what our direction, what the direction of the district is going to be. That vision is then shared with me as the superintendent, and then you hold me accountable for the success of the vision. It's like giving us instructions that you want us to go somewhere. You want us to reach a certain destination, but you empower us and you give us the freedom to choose the way that we get to that destination. I think when I look at today's board agenda, you take a look at that, and I think it explains what I'm trying to say best. We're purchasing property today for the future of this school system. We're approving a system to continue to improve our communication from home to school. And of course, we're going to talk about student achievement. And we've been working on student achievement so much. We're well on the way to proficiency. This past spring, we were 1/10 away from reaching proficiency. We're making a lot of progress in all these areas. These goals that you've given us to accomplish. This direction to follow. This vision to guide us. There are times when you got to make some very difficult decisions, and they're not always popular decisions. And one of the things we appreciate most about you is that when these difficult decisions come, you make the best decision based on what's best for children and not what public opinion is. We're extremely grateful. You've laid out a vision, you've provided the resources, the support, the staff, and the programs that we need to reach that destination that you gave us. So today we want to celebrate you. We want to thank you for your vision, your support, and your dedication. We have our cards that we're going to give you in just a moment. And again, I refer to you, remind you that the elementary students said that you were superheroes. And today, we thank you for being our superheroes. We appreciate those superpowers that you have. So, Miss Fox, if you could have a couple of or 4 or 5 of our students come up, whatever you had planned, and we want to give our board members their superhero, superpower cards today. Okay. You're going to take this right over to Miss Shrewsbury, right there in the middle, okay? You're going to take this one from Miss Reed right here, okay? All right, thank you. And this one goes to Mr. Stone on the end of it. Go over there and tell him thank you, okay? This one goes to Mr. Hibbs right here. He's in a red sweater, okay? Tell him thank you. Okay? And this one goes to Mr. Roby right here. Say thank you to him. You can reach across the table. What we're going to share with you today is Ms. Fox. This is our kindergarten class with Bardstown Primary School, and this is under Ms. Terry Fox's direction. And she might want to tell you a little bit about this, but we're working hard on world language in our schools, and not only language, but also culture. And so she has a few things today that she's going to be sharing with us.
Okay, we are going to sing a Spanish song for you. In music class, we do Spanish as well. We're learning Spanish and music in my class. So we've learned a little song, and we have a little bit of the Spanish culture with a couple of our instruments. Zanaya, what one is yours called?
Maraca.
And what are yours called? Claves. Very good, Xavier. Okay, so we're going to sing a quick little song for you. Okay, ready, guys?
Uno, dos, tres amigos, cuatro, cinco, seis amigos, siete, ocho, nueve amigos, 10 amigos somos. Uno, dos, tres amigos, cuatro, cinco, seis amigos, siete, ocho, nueve amigos, 10 amigos somos. 1, 2, 3 friends, 4, 5, 6 friends, 7, 8, 9 friends, 10 friends are we.
What grade are these kids?
These are kindergarten.
And look, and our teachers say we look like first grade.
They are looking more like first grade. They are.
So well.
Okay.
Well, we're learning at kindergarten, first and second grade now. So,
You all, thank you. Thank you
Thank
so much.
you.
You guys were great. Thank you for being here. And this is your gift, board members. Thank you for a great job you did.
On behalf of the board, I would have gotten my cake.
And this concludes our superintendent report for today.
That'll be a hard act to follow, but let's go on to item 6, which is our focus on delivery targets for Bardstown Elementary School.
You all know we're doing a series of reports from our schools on focusing on delivery targets. Has to do everything to do with instruction. As I mentioned to you a while ago, we're 1/10 away from proficiency, and we are pushing hard. We have every intention of making that proficiency this spring. Mr. Bowling is here with the Bardstown Elementary School, our principal. He's going to share with us their plan of attack.
Well, again, having to follow the little kids singing is a tough one, but I'm going to try my best. First of all, I just want to let you know that things are going so well at the elementary school. I couldn't be happier about the progress that we're making. This is the 4th K-Prep test that we've taken, and our score has gone up every single year. And I'm happy to say that our report this year is better than it's ever been. I'm going to give you a real brief delivery target report first, and then I'm going to tell you just a couple of things that we're doing to help us get even better at what we're doing. Some quick facts about our K-Prep scores this time. We did meet our annual measurable objective, which is the overall score that the state sets for us for the 3rd straight year. We didn't meet it the first year because there wasn't one to meet, because it was the first year we took the test, so we've met it every year. And for the first time ever, we met our state delivery target in every single subject area. You have an overall goal, which is your AMO, and then the state gives you a delivery target for each subject. We met every single one of those. We also met our state delivery target with our overall gap group, which is, again, a first. And not only did we do that, but we met the delivery target for every subgroup within the gap group, with exception to one, which is the students with disabilities group, and we're working on that, and we weren't real far off. But again, very proud of that. Our overall score was a 66.9. The proficient cutoff is 67.2, 0.3 of a point. So we're not satisfied with that, but real close to being a proficient school. And just in comparison, you can see right here, the year before we were 61.6, we're up to a 66.9, and you'll notice the percentile up here, and it's in your packet as well. we went from the 45th percentile all the way to the 68th, which is phenomenal. We are considered a high progress school, which is great, but again, what we're shooting for is to be a proficient school. And then just real quickly on the actual delivery targets, you can see right there that we not only met the delivery target, but in just about every case, we exceeded the delivery target by 4 to 5 points. So we're real happy. Teachers were thrilled, and I'm thrilled with the work that they're doing to help us get even better. Now, we have been working, and I know you've heard some of these terms. First of all, there's a whole bunch of things that we're doing to help improve at the elementary school. I'm going to focus on one thing that our teachers are very excited about and that we believe is going to make the biggest impact on our scores and getting us up above proficient, and that is how we are using collaborative teaming in our building, and not only just teaming collaboratively, but using data to help us provide interventions to students that are not learning the material. And the teaming is generally referred to as professional learning communities, or PLCs. I know you've heard that term before. And then the interventions are called RTI. And what we found out over the summer is that we have been doing both of those processes to some degree, but Kara Blackman led us to a conference over the summer, and the light bulb kind of went off that we weren't doing the PLCs properly, and because we weren't using the data from the PLCs, our interventions weren't working to the best potential either. So I'm going to show you quickly how that works. The PLC process, and our teachers have always worked in teams, but this is a totally different level. This little diagram here kind of shows you the basics. It can be very complicated. I'm going to give you the basics here. It starts off with the instruction. What are we teaching the kids? And that comes from standards. But you also have to figure out in what sequence you're going to teach the kids, which means you're going to have to make pacing guides. And instead of each teacher coming up with a pacing guide for their class, which tells you what to teach and when, they're doing it together. So we have a PLC in place for each grade level and each grade and each subject. So there's a 3rd grade reading PLC, a 3rd grade math, 4th grade reading, 4th grade math, 4th grade science, and so on. So the teachers are working together as a team to do that. Once they figure out what they're going to teach based on the state standards and when they're going to teach it, then they have to figure out how are we going to assess this material. Because we can teach it all we want, but if we don't assess it, we're not going to know if they're learning. And that's the second big question. How do we know if the students are learning the material? So we are giving common assessments every 2 to 3 weeks or so in our core subjects to see if the kids are understanding the material that we're teaching them. All right? So the third piece of that is to analyze that data, because again, we can teach it and we can assess it, but if we don't take the data that we're getting from those assessments and do something with it, what is the point? So the teachers have the common assessments taught in every single classroom. All right, they're analyzing the data together in a meeting, and then they're grouping kids based on which standards that they need more help in. It's really a pretty simple process, but it's time consuming. So once we know which kids need help and which standards or targets, then the next thing is, okay, students that didn't understand, what are we going to do to make sure that they do understand? The days of teaching Unit 1 and moving on to Unit 2 and teaching it and moving on to Unit 3, gone. Now, we are totally breaking down all the data, grouping kids by which standards they need more help in, and then as a team of teachers, there may be, like in the 3rd grade, for instance, there are 10 teachers teaching reading or teaching math. And so one teacher can take a group that is having trouble with place value and say, you know what, I love place value, I'm really good at that. Give me the group that is really struggling with place value. That's the power of this. And so then we apply those interventions, reassess to see where we are. And that's kind of how the loop works. So we're meeting in PLC teams to do all this, but then we're using the data to help drive our interventions with students and raise student achievement. Now, I'm going to show you just a couple of things here. This is a picture of a PLC at work, and actually this was just last week on Thursday. This is a group of 5th grade reading teachers, and you'll notice there's a couple of things I want to point out here that are important. You'll notice that right here in the center is Miss Spalding. She was a former elementary teacher. She's respected by the teachers, and she has really become an expert in how this process works. She attends every one of these meetings, not to micromanage, but to lead it. And the teachers need her help. And she keeps them all moving in the right direction. And you'll see here on the table what Karen Owen has right here. These are student names, and they are taking pieces of the common assessment, and they are dividing out by which students need help with what area. And then they're putting them on the boards. You'll see the boards in the background. And there's one board that is a board, it's called the Mastery Board. These are students that have already learned the material, because hopefully we did something right and some of the students got it the first time, and then we provide enrichment activities for them, because we don't want to give them a double dose of something that they don't need, so we're extending their learning. And the first thing that we always look at is how many students are on our Mastery Board? How many students are on our board where the students really didn't get it, because they're really paying attention to that. And they're putting names on each board, and then they have to figure out what are we going to do to instruct our intervention groups. And they do that together. It's not Paul Bowling trying to figure out what I'm going to do to help the kids. It's all of them. That's the power of it. They're doing it together. Just another one there. They're putting names on the boards. And there are some real benefits to this process. Some things that we are seeing is equity and consistency of instruction from classroom to classroom. Again, there's no longer the worry of, well, this teacher's really doing a really good job with this part, and this one's really good in reading, but this one over here needs some help. They are doing all this together. So the equity and consistency of instruction is better than it's ever been. That's a real benefit. Second one, a high level of collaboration and trust and respect. Because if you think about it, the teachers are showing up to the meeting with their student data. Now, it used to be teachers might have been just a little territorial, that, well, my students, you know, I don't know if I want to show everybody how my kids did. That's gone. And it's school-wide. They come in, they put their data down, and no longer is it just the 24 in my classroom, it's the whole 3rd grade. They're not looking at just theirs. They're looking at the board to see how many kids do we have on the, on the below grade level board. We really need to work on that. So they're owning the 3rd grade reading PLC or the 5th grade math PLC. They're owning the whole grade level of kids, not just theirs. And that takes a lot of trust and respect. And so it's been a real climate change in the building the last couple of years in that area. Increased ownership. The biggest thing about this is that the interventions that we're doing, they're data-driven. It's not that we think that Jim Roby needs a little help with his place value. We know it. We can point to a piece of data and say, he needs help, and we help him. It's all data-driven. We have proof. The end result is a more efficient intervention process that is bridging gaps with our student learning and helping us get to the next level. We've had a lot of climate shift the last couple of years with students. We've talked about student ownership. We've talked about goal setting. We've talked about all the different things that we're doing. This is the missing piece. This is what is going to help us drive to proficiency. And we're really seeing results. I know you all have questions, so I want to give you a chance to answer or to ask some of those so that I can answer those for you.
If you had to put a general percent on how many attain the mastery levels in the various subcategories, would you say 10%, 20%?
It's tough because it changes every few weeks. For instance, we may have one unit where we're due 3 weeks of instruction, and our mastery board is full, and our teachers are looking at each other going, wow, they really got that. I think we were really on target with what we were teaching. We've got some here that may be 30, 40%, and then the lower board might be much less. And then the next one, it could be that we don't have, yes, it could be flip-flopped. And what that does is the teachers start looking at each other and they're saying, okay, we didn't do something right with that material. Let's go back and look at that standard. Let's make sure we know what the standard is asking first. And then let's look at what we did and what we decided to do together, because something didn't work, we got to fix it. And then they go back and revamp. So it changes all the time. It's a tough one to answer. But a great question.
Talked to Mrs. Blackman. She sort of enlightened me on some facts that not only the collaboration you have between grades and subject matter, that's taking place in the primary and the elementary school, and I think it's progressing on up to the middle school also.
It is, yes, sir.
And that's the reason I think that you all have been successful. It starts early, according to Ms. Blackman. Is that not correct?
The earlier that you intervene with a student when they are not learning the material, the better chance you have of bridging them up to grade level. I wish that we had started 3 years ago doing this process the right way. We thought we were doing it the right way, and it wasn't until the conference this summer that we realized we're really not doing it the right way. We were struggling with the whole RTI process, and when we went to the conference, the light bulb kind of went off that we're not doing it right. That's why it's not working well. Now we really believe in what we're doing. Our teachers are excited, and even kids. Well, Miss Brittany Albee told me the other day, she said, Mr. Bowen, one of my students looked at me and said, Mr. Bowen, Miss Albee, are we going to get to work on this in RTI a little more? And she said, yes, you are. So the kids, know what's going on as well, and they know they're going to get help if they don't get it.
That's what's so great about it. When you see a problem, you fix it instead of waiting like I did when I was in school. Every 6 weeks you get a report card. Well, I guess I messed up here, this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
They're getting it early.
Or it's at the end of the year, summer school.
Okay.
And this is very often we're intervening and fixing issues within the regular, in the school day. So
I'm trying to visualize this. You still have self-contained classrooms?
Yes.
So do you have teachers rotating if they're good at one thing? Or are they instructing their colleagues about how they,
Very good question. Third grade is still self-contained, but what we're doing is we have an intervention period, okay? It's math intervention these 3 or 4 days this week, and it's like third grade goes from 8:15 to 9 o'clock every morning. That's their intervention period. It's just math, okay? Then the next week we do a week worth of reading. So what happens is the kids are broken up into groups, and they know which RTI group they're going to. And for this 3 weeks, it may be this, but the next one it's going to shift. They may go down to Miss Fleming's class to work on place value, and then another group is going to Miss Puckett or Miss Higgs or Miss Mizutani. They're all going to different areas to get some expert help. And so
you're pulling the children out?
Yes, and we're moving them. But what that's also doing is it's giving kids more access to the other instructors, because they may have Miss Puckett for one RTI stretch, and in the next stretch they may have Miss Fleming, and in the next stretch they may go to Miss Masters. So they're also getting access to all the teachers, and the teachers are learning more than just their class. Goes back to that ownership.
How does that affect your end of the year progress in your curriculum? If you have these interventions that continue throughout the year, does that retard the completion of your curriculum?
Are we going to get through with our pacing guide?
Yes. I mean, how do you keep catching up at the end of the year? You're still catching up, or does it actually affect that way?
It's not so much catching up or not catching up. It's bridging the gaps. All right, and we continue to work with kids. We may do an intervention period and students are still having trouble. And then we go to, this is all tier 2, what we call tier 2 interventions. We have another tier where we have content specialists work with kids in a different setting. That would be tier 3. So if students are not getting it in tier 2, we can move to tier 3 and get them even some more help.
But how does it, again, at the end of the year, if you need to get them from point A to point B, and they're never at point B because the intervention,
well, it really doesn't work that way. We
Okay.
do get there, but I will say this, we lay out the pacing guide for the year. It does need adjustments as we go. But the thing is, you can't move to step 2 if you don't know step 1.
Right.
And that's why we're trying to step in and fix step 1 so that they can go to step 2. If we just roll with it like we used to do traditionally, chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, kids get lost.
The traditional part, but I'm assuming that there are children that get it all the way through. And how do those kids that don't get it I mean, this is the intervention that used to keep bridging that gap, but are they always behind?
It could be that they're behind some,
Yeah.
but the goal is to bridge that down so that they're not behind. And like what Ms. Blackman was telling you, if we can do this at an earlier age, there's going to be less of a gap as we go. It could compound down to where we don't have a whole lot of kids that are way behind. That's the goal. And we will see at the end of the year too, you know, how this is working. We believe it's going to work well.
Just
Yes,
a
ma'am.
quick question. So I'm assuming from what you're saying that this moves the student faster through the RTI process, that, you know, because of the tiers, that then are you seeing more students then identified faster and earlier for special ed through the RTI process?
Well, the RTI process does serve as data for special ed
Right.
referrals, yes. Because you have to have that, you have to have 6 weeks worth of data. Well, we're collecting data on everybody.
Right.
So if we do have a student that is behind, yes, it does speed up that process because we have the data already. It's not like we suspect that there's something going on and then we have to start doing a bunch of data. We're already doing it. So yes, it does aid in that process, for certain.
And then, I guess just to jump on that a little bit, so for your students with disabilities, what is the plan there?
I'm glad you asked that. What we've got at each grade level right now, and I really worked with Ryan Clark on this because he's got a similar plan with being a focus school and things, that we've got an RTI group that has, if we've got a group of special needs kids that need help in math, we've got them teamed up during the RTI period each day with a teacher. Not the special ed teacher, because they get a lot of help from them already. We're putting them with a regular classroom teacher, and they're taking care of them and really trying to bring them up to grade level and trying to parallel what the middle school is doing with theirs so that the kids get used to that. And we believe that's going to pay off as well. So, good question.
Well, I'd just like to, commend you on the science of the methodology here. Just kind of blows me away that the elaborate steps that are taken. I mean, I know in our day, none of this, there was no collaboration with or I don't think there was, between the teachers and even the different schools themselves. So hats off to you and your staff for doing a great job.
Well, thank you, and I would just like to say to close, that come by and see it. We've got all the data in binders. Ms. Spalding has got it all set up, and it's much more elaborate than what I showed you, and we'd love to show it to you if you want to come by one day, any day.
Thank you. Great work.
All right, thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Bowman.
Okay. So now we're down to item 7, the approval for the fiscal year 2017 draft budget.
We're going to be working on our budget today. As you know, we do 3 budgets in the school business. In January, we have a draft budget. In May, we have what's called the tentative budget. And in September, we have the working budget. And the working budget is the real budget. The draft is when we start trying to pull some things together, and that's what you're going to see today. We have reviewed our projected revenue and our expenses for the coming year. And I'll say we've done this to the best of our ability because it's very difficult to do at this time of year. There are very many unknowns, particularly on the revenue side of the budget, but we've had to make some assumptions here. We feel that the budget you're going to be seeing today is going to resemble a lot of what you saw in September of this past year. It's going to be very close to that. We're going to hold steady on everything we can until we get more information on revenue. But here are some things that I would like to point out in this budget. Remember that our budget includes the following accounts. We have Fund 1, which we refer to as a general fund account. We have capital outlay, which is Fund 310, and capital outlay primarily is used for construction type things roofs, HVAC systems, things of that nature. We have been able to roll that into Fund 1 due to the state of the economy for the past several years, and we've done that again this year. Our Fund 320 is our building fund, Fund 400 is our debt service, Fund 51 is food service, our child care is 52. When you take a total of all these accounts, the total budget that you're looking at today is $31,480,244.54. Pretty good sized budget. Out of that amount, and we track this mostly, you'll notice each time we pay claims or treasurer's report, we're talking about the general fund mostly. In the general fund, out of that 31 million, 24,163,254 is the amount of the general fund account. Remind you that the state requires that you maintain a minimum of 2.5% contingency. Remember, a contingency is the amount of money that we hold for rainy day type events. Although that's the minimum required, it is recommended that you have between a 4 and a 5% by the Kentucky Department of Education. Although this is a draft budget and a whole lot of things can happen between now and next September, we're looking right now in this budget at a 4% contingency. Obviously, retirement is heavy on most people's minds in the school business these days. 6 years ago, there was a plan to, I won't say to fix the retirement situation, but to improve it. And we were a part of that plan, whether we wanted to be or not. Basically, the past 6 years, we've seen an increase in our contribution as a school district of about, it averages out to about a half of a percent. This year, we're going to be looking at $349,294 that will go into retirement. 6 years ago, that amount, that was not we weren't bothered with this. So we talk about revenue, we talk about finding funds. It's becoming increasingly difficult, as you can see. So this is, I don't know what's coming next, but this is the 6th year of the 6-year plan. So something will be coming at us, I'm sure. So something we need to plan for in the coming year. We will be required to include a cost of living, or as you refer to it in the school business, as a step increase. That comes to 1% in this budget. That will cost us on the wage side $178,131. As far as benefits go, it'll be an additional $65,751 for a total of $243,882 increase on the salary that we're already paying for the coming year. And then just to kind of throw a wrench into the plan here a little bit, if you're getting comfortable and starting to understand, let me mix that up a little bit. In December of this past year, December the 11th to be exact, 2015, we were notified that we'll be looking at a reduction in our SEEK funds of almost $40,000. Now, let me explain this to you. That is for this year. And you say, well, we had a working budget in September, and we didn't know about that. Well, that's exactly the truth. And not to be too hard on the folks that have to make these decisions, the way that money is set out is that there are so many students, projected students in the state of Kentucky. And then you divide into that, and that's where you get your SEEK funding of, say you get $4,000 a student as an example. If more students show up, the money doesn't increase, it just gets divided more. And that's what's happened. So we're going to be looking, us and other school districts are looking at decreases in our current funding. So when I talk to you about contingency and about how important it is that we don't hover on that 2.5, we can have some serious problems if we set a contingency at 2.5 and then we get $40,000 taken away from us in mid-year. You're in a tough spot. So when folks ask you, well, what about your contingency? That's something I want you to be aware of and be able to share with those folks. This year's staffing at this point, we're going to try to hold our staffing where it is. We have seen some increase in student population. Our goal at this point is to maintain and hold steady. We'll have a much better idea in the spring of what we're going to be looking for at next year's staffing. But right now our goal is to hold steady. Also, we will be purchasing, we have a bus plan on the purchase of the buses. This year we'll be purchasing 2 buses. The main thing I want to remind you about that is that over time we are reimbursed for those buses. And we usually get 100% of that reimbursement because in our school district, our routes are not as long as some other school districts. So we're able to use those buses for a longer period of time, and we continue to get reimbursement on that. So that's good news for us there. So what I'm proposing to you today, again, it's our draft budget. It is a balanced budget. I think after this legislative session ends, and by the time we get to the tentative budget, we'll have a much more solid budget. But this is what this is about. This is a draft budget, and this is where we start. So, Mr. Chair, I'll ask that I recommend that the board approves this budget to give us a start on this process.
I'll start off with a couple of questions. Will we see any decrease in the need for any staff based on our Nelson County, our production of students? Will that affect us at all?
I don't think it will at this point. It looks as though that we're going to hold steady. Remember that we do have growth in this school district outside of the Nelson County out-of-district students. So it looks like it's going to hold fairly steady, maybe just a little bit up. So.
Okay. My second question would be with the change in regimes of that administration, have we seen any impact on that right off the bat, or is it something they're going to have to wait and see what happens?
Yeah, I think it's more of a wait and see. There's a lot of nervous folks with, obviously, with charter schools and some other things that are being proposed. So it's a nervous time for us. I have great confidence. We seem to make it every year, though, so I'm going to continue to be positive, optimistic.
Any other questions or discussions? Item 7, seek a motion for approval of the fiscal year 2017 draft budget.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Moving on to item 8, the approval for the attorney resolution for the Chenoweth Law Office.
This is a request for a contract with the Chenoweth Law Office. We're using this law firm on an as-need basis. And it does require an annual contract. You might recall last year, 2015, was our first year that we did use them. They've been extremely helpful to us, and we're very pleased with their service. They provide, particularly in the area of special ed and also general education advice. We'll also make a note that we also have agreements and relationships with other attorneys' office. This does not leave anyone out that we've used in the past. We have some local attorneys that we're using on different things, and we'll continue to use them. This particular office just requires a contract with them.
Make a motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Moving on to item 9 today is the approval of the eSchool View Renewal Agreement.
The title of this piece does not explain what it truly is. This is a very, very big deal for the Bardstown City School District. I'm very excited to be able to share with you today. As a Board of Education, you've had a long-standing goal for us to continue to find ways to improve the school-to-home communications, and I mentioned that in our board appreciation piece. I don't know, a couple of you were here at the very beginning when you first gave us that vision, if you will, that first goal, first direction on how can we were doing a pretty good job. I think your words were, how can we continue to improve this? You might recall the refrigerator magnet with the counter that went on, that we were sending home. We've come a long way with web pages and other methods of communication. We've been for about 2 years. We've been looking at a system, a method of communication with our parents that would give us more than what we have. Currently, what we have is a system that has a voice command only. We can send messages through a phone system, which basically can go on a recorder. A person can take that call, and we're pretty much limited to that, with the exception of a program called Remind that we picked up on the side. It's a free app that you can get and use, and then also obviously email. But you have to load information in both of those. What we're looking for is a system that where we would be able to interface with our current Infinite Campus system that has all that data in it, has all the phone numbers, has all the addresses, things. It's not really been as easy as you might think with technology out there. We kept looking and looking. We ended up coming back to eSchoolView, which is the company that provides our design on our web page, and we've been very pleased with them. What we're proposing to you today is for you to consider is a messaging system, an email system, a push notification, text messaging, a mobile device on for our website, and also a phone messaging system, which we currently have. This one would take the place of that one though. So, in addition to the services that I just mentioned to you, because this is the web page design company, and they have a vast amount of products that they can provide for school systems. As a bonus, we'll get a free redesign of our web page as well, and we're about ready for that. This contract will be for 5 years. We're very comfortable in signing with this group with eSchoolView. They have been very good about keeping things up to date, and we feel like although 5 years is a span of time that technology could change, that this is an organization that has proven that they will keep up with the times and continue to make the upgrades. Couple points here. This new system, it fully integrates with Infinite Campus, and that's as I said, our current information service. The app that we're talking about will be able to access the web page now. We don't live in a world of big clunky computers anymore, and that's not, you already knew that. People are on the go. People want to be able to access our website, and they'll be able to do that in an application form that works like other apps do on your smart device, whatever that might be. This will be a free app that you can go to your app store and pick up, and it will not cost anything. It's going to give parents and our students and staff access to calendar items, sports schedules, news and updates. Also, our principals will be able to, and our teachers will be able to use this to send out instant communications via text. Another major advantage is that it can be sent in 15 different languages. If this is something that we decide to do, we'll have access to this program. If you approve this today, we'll have access to it within 2 months. At that time, we'll probably go ahead and implement the program. We'll begin getting things ready, so we hit the ground running in August. As we finish out the year, we'll begin to get the kinks and glitches worked out of it and hit the ground running at the new year.
Will this be used for weather?
Yes.
How's it going to work?
Well,
Bottom line.
all right. Well,
You had a good example with the bomb thing over there, right? You told me.
yes. First of all, the main method of communication, when we send a phone message, actually what happens is that people don't listen to the message, they call us back. So if we send a message during the day, we spend the vast majority of the rest of the day answering the telephone. Did you call me? And explaining why we called. Folks, from what we understand from research, you get a text message, you have a tendency to look at it. So that's going to be the main method of communication. If we needed to get information out to people, cancel school, or there was an event that took place at school and we wanted to notify people immediately, then we would be able to do this. There's only one key to it, is you have to sign up. Number one, how do you want to be notified? Phone, email, with a text message. And the reason we can't just send you a text message is we might use your data up, and you wouldn't be pleased with us if we did that. So you'll have to opt in to get that service.
I'm thinking for us, a benefit would be documentation, right? On our end of what we sent out would be a little more.
Sure, that could be helpful.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I've got a set of iPhone. It's got, will I have to add this app, free app you're talking about?
Mhm.
And
No,
and
no,
then
no,
sign
no.
up and give you my email address or whatever?
Well, yeah, there'll be pieces in there where you'll have to give us, but the Remind system is a notification system that a lot of coaches use and teachers use for assignments, like in their classroom. In order to get Remind, you have to sign up for it, and here's what it amounts to in signing up. Is you text in, they give you a number, like a phone number. You put that phone number in, and then you send in the text line, you put a code in. It might be 4 digits. You're signed up. You'll get it from now on. Everything that she or he sends out, you will receive. It's a one-way push notification kind of system.
So if there's a snow day, the teacher can put an assignment in and the kids can pull it up and know what they have to do?
They could, and our students will be pleased to know you're thinking that way.
Snow day.
Snow day.
Well, listen, I hadn't even got to the best part of this. The very best part of this is that this phone system that we're paying for right now, with one single option, phone only, we're paying $3,959, and that was the deal. Because of this bundled package with our website design, it's going to be a yearly premium of $2,800. We're going to save $1,159 per year by using
Right,
the
that's the
system.
best part.
I knew you would agree, Mr. Stone.
That is a no-brainer.
I probably should have started with that, but we just have an approval here.
I had that question, cost.
But I really did want to share with you all the features that we're going to have now. It is a milestone. And I go back to those early days, and I look at particularly Ms. Shrewsbury and Ms. Reed, and when you all were here and gave that clear direction many years ago that we want to continue to improve on home and school communication, and I think this is a home run.
Awesome. Any more questions or discussion?
It'd been nice if that all the information you just gave us was in this.
It will be in your Dropbox by the time you get home.
Careful what you ask for, Jim.
Like I say, I hate showing the stupidity. I didn't know how to work.
It's all right.
Okay, for item 9, seeking a motion for approval of the e-school review renewal agreement.
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Now moving on to item 10, which is the approval of the BG1 Templin Avenue property purchase, something we've all been waiting for quite some time.
I'm very excited to present to you today the final piece of the purchase agreement with the Salt River RACC. This is going to enable us to purchase 71 acres of property on Templin Avenue. As you will recall, we entered into a purchase contract with Salt River in June of 2012. And we had the intention of completing this purchase within 36 to 72 months. And we're very pleased to be bringing this, finalizing this contract well within that 36 to 72 months. Very excited about that. I'd like to say thank you to the Salt River folks and for working with us. They've been an excellent partner throughout this process. It's been a pleasure to work with. We have operated here on this main campus 43 acres. 12 acres we purchased around 2001 out on Templin. And we've done that for 107 years, and we've made do with that. Today is a historical event in a lot of ways. This is going to allow us to ensure ourselves a future. As you know, property is at a premium in any city limits, and so we're very pleased to be able to get these 71 acres. We're also one of the few independent school districts in the state that are experiencing growth. Many independent school systems are in the unfortunate position of being landlocked. We have several acres that are undeveloped that are zoned for residential development, and we're essentially planning for what's going to be happening to us. If we waited until those homes were developed in the next few years, then we would be in a very tight spot. So we're very pleased to be able to do what we're doing today. Here's a little fact I want to share with you. According to the Department of the Community and Leadership Development at the University of Kentucky, Nelson County's population for ages 0 to 19 is projected to grow 32.6% from 2010 to 2050. The state's projected growth for the same age group in the same time period is 14.5. So this is an area that's been tagged for growth, and it's a pleasure to be able to prepare in advance for what we're going to be seeing. I'd like to remind you that the purchase of this property will come from the sale of bonds. This funding is only available to districts that demonstrate growth. And this money can only be used for land acquisition and construction. And it's not available for day-to-day operations. We're going to have Mr. Joe Nance with Ross Sinclair come here on the next item on our agenda. He's going to share some more details concerning the funding on this item. Per our earlier discussions that we've had several of those over the years. Our immediate use for the property will be to repurpose the warehouse on the property to allow us to relocate our transportation service from the main campus. Due to our growth over the years, we've experienced an increase of bus traffic and also automobile traffic. It's always a good rule if you can separate those and split that as much as you possibly can. It's a good idea in the school business. How we're going to benefit from this is once our buses come in and drop off, what they're doing now is they're re-entering the campus, so we'll be able to cut bus traffic by half by having this in another location, making our current campus a safer campus, especially with the increased number of automobiles that we're having. Also, of course, our plans will be to build a future school for second and third grade. We've had that discussion on this new campus. We'll begin the process of planning within the next year on how we're going to do that, and those finer details that we'll need to get together for the planning process. A second third grade facility will remove a grade level from both the existing primary and also the elementary school in order to accommodate the growth that we've experienced over the past 8 to 10 years. We have simply taken every single available space in these buildings and turned into classrooms. Related arts areas are being used for classrooms. But being able to do this, we'll be able to get, we're very tight where we are, but this will give us the flexibility to be able to actually use the spaces that were provided in the building from the original design. And so we're looking forward to that. Our staff has had to bunch up, if you will, and give up in a lot of cases. We've had to have music on a cart and art on a cart, and those are not the best situations. So we're looking forward to be able to get our space back, and I commend our staff for being able to get through these difficult times. You see in your packet there a BG1. This is a document, of course, we've approved these before, but there are construction projects with the Kentucky Department of Education. And today you're going to be asked to approve that. And what that allows us to do, it allows us to move forward with the bonding process. And just one more time, I just want to remind you concerning the funding that we're using funds that can only be used for school districts that have demonstrated growth. And it is a restricted fund and can only be used for construction and building. And because we are one of those growth districts, then we're able to do this. So we won't be putting the burden of the finances on the local community here. So with all that being said, I'll be glad to answer any questions you have, and I'd like to hear what your comments might be. And once we do that, any further comments, then I'd like to recommend that we approve this agreement with Salt River.
Comments?
I'm really excited about it. I think that is something that we need to do. It's an excellent opportunity, and I don't know if another opportunity will come along in our way, and then we're able to do it.
Mr. Hill?
Oh, I'm just as excited as Reed. I'd like to, in the discussion, make a motion to approve the BG1 project application form of purchase of Temple Avenue property.
Any other comments or discussion?
I think the growth, the projected growth, I think that's great for the district. And it wasn't, it was 30-some% for Nelson County.
Double.
For the Nelson, yeah, it's 32.6. Which I think it's good for our school system and as well as for our community. I mean, it's going to be a good gift for all of us.
Shrewsbury, you got anything?
I'm just all for this, I've been waiting.
Well,
So I'm
we'll-
excited too.
We'll vote here in a moment and determine that, but just having worked with Mr. Holzclaw on this in the last year, it's all about location, location, location. And as my father always said, they're not making any more land, so I'm very excited that we're going to have this opportunity. And really, just knowing how the steadfast determination that Mr. Holzclaw and his resolve to get this, keep it moving. And a lot of folks would have let go of it, but this guy would not. So I appreciate his effort very, very much. So without further ado, I'm going to call for a vote or approval for the BG1 Templin Avenue property purchase. Can I get a motion? Now we have a motion.
Wait a second.
Second.
And we have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed?
Good news. Congratulations to all of us. Awesome.
All right. Item 11 is the approval, adopt a resolution authorizing the Bardstown Independent School District Finance Corporation to issue revenue bonds.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Joe Nance.
Yeah, this is Joe Nance with Ross and Clinton.
I've been here many times, and if you recall, I never show up without papers, so I do have a handout that I want to give you. Now, I want to just briefly go over your bonding potential, remind you of the process that we're getting ready to go through, and highlight a couple of things. And since we've done this many times, I'm going to ask you just to go to the last page of my handout. And what I've just handed out is a standard plan of financing that we review for any Board of Education before we issue bonds. So it's the same process we all go through. And one thing I want to point out that Mr. Holzclaw had mentioned is whenever we borrow money for building purposes, we borrow money for a 20-year period and we pay it back. The payback for these bonds will be with the growth nickels that we've always had. And I think that's why he mentioned because of the growth we were able to finance this project. So again, just to emphasize, whenever we look at your bonding potential, the payback of your bonds are only with restricted dollars that can only be used for building purposes. No general fund dollars involved. So if you look at my summary box, as of today, when we look at the restricted funds that you have available, subtract what you currently owe, we could bond up to $13,050,000. So that is our total bonding potential as of today. What we're looking at to approve this afternoon is a $4,515,000 bond issue to purchase the property in question, which leaves us a balance of $8.5 million to start looking at future projects. So this is, should be pretty standard of what we've talked about for the last couple of years as we've come to review this. But in summary, we've got a little over $13 million today. What we're looking at to approve now is $4.5 million for this property purchase, which leaves a balance of $8.5 million. I will say that this is the last step in the process to move forward. I'm sure you're all aware, Mr. Holzclaw probably had a list that was 25 items long that we had to satisfy to get the Department of Education approval. We've gotten full approval from the Department of Education, and upon approving the BG1 and authorizing the bond sale, we're ready to go. Assuming we proceed today, we have a tentative bond sale scheduled for February the 3rd. So at that point, we would be able to lock in the rates, have money to make the purchase. The only other thing I'll point out, seems like I've been coming here for about 8 years now saying we're at historic lows on interest rates. We're still right there. We might not be historic, but we're that far from historic. When we sell these bonds, we would anticipate a 20-year average rate of right at 3%. So we're going to do a 20-year financing for 3% interest, so we're still in a very good interest rate climate. What we have before you right now is a resolution that's before the board. So what, if you recall, it's a two-step process when we sell bonds. So assuming that we approve this resolution as the board, then after your board meeting's over, we're going to call to order your finance corporation, and you all are also members of the finance corporation, and we'll adopt a second resolution to actually issue the bonds. So from my standpoint, timing's great. We've got all approvals, and we're ready to go.
Any questions or considerations? Call for a motion for the approval, adopt a resolution authorizing the Bardstown Independent School District Finance Corporation to issue revenue bonds.
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Item 12, approval of the nutrition and physical activity report card.
This is a requirement that we have to turn into the state because we do get funding for our food services. And I wanted to just to explain some of the difference in numbers from last year. Actually, Greta Cecil does all the numbers for this report because I'm the district health coordinator. I'm the one that also has to oversee this report card. But what you see, a difference in the numbers here from last year to this year, are the new regs for lowering sodium content, fat content, and calories. What you're seeing is less people participating in lunch and breakfast. I talked to Greta this morning for just a moment concerning, and what she really believes is the taste factor. She and her staff work diligently to find the best products that meet the requirements. I am happy to tell you that they are not going to lower the sodium content any lower right now. It's going to stay where it is. They had plans to lower it even further. But we are, and you think about this, how accustomed we are to taste the salt, the sugar, I hate to say, the fat content, things just taste better. So we are in a period, I feel like, of transition that eventually students will come back and to eating, will be back to the same numbers. Greta did talk about that, one of the breakfast participation, our biscuits and gravy were one of the highest sellers. They used to get it once a week. I know this sounds funny, but they had to go to whole wheat biscuits, and the kids just didn't like it. Well, they are going to lessen the requirement for the whole wheats so that we can serve our white flour biscuits for biscuits and gravy. And but truly, it is a juggling act for Greta and her staff to come up with food that students will eat and that will meet the nutrition guidelines. And they really work very hard at doing that. We are maintaining, in fact, we are encouraging more physical activity, doing brain breaks. I don't know if you all are aware of that, but that is research out there that says that students, especially in grades K-5, who participate in little bursts of physical activity during the day, during instruction, as like teachers are transitioning from one part of the lesson to the other, have better attention span. Plus, as we know, just any kind of physical activity is healthy for you. So we are encouraging more physical activity. We do have, as you see, meet the requirements for PE. We have certified PE and health teachers, which, there are some school districts that do not, but we do. And we have a new playground at the elementary. Our playgrounds are open to the public, so all of this meets the requirements that I did want to explain to you why you would see a difference in the numbers from last year to this year.
I have a couple questions.
Yes, sir.
Well, the first one's really silly, but when did they stop calling it recess and start calling it PE? What grade?
Well,
Or is it all the
they're
same?
two different.
So I mean, do young kids still get recess though?
They get recess in PE. PE is actually with the PE teacher. Recess can be with the teachers, and that are supervising.
But recess goes away at like the 4th grade or something? Or?
No, I think fifth graders have recess.
5th grade.
They have, yeah.
I'd say it goes.
Yeah.
But they call it, you know what TABE stands for? Is it TAPE or TAB? TABE.
The TABE,
I can't recall, but anyway, it's an acronym for recess that includes more than
it's
just
teacher.
playing.
It's teacher. It's the TABE. It's teacher assisted
Okay.
physical activity or something. But no, we have a new program through Humana Vitality. You got me started here, where teachers can get points on their for Humana Vitality by doing physical activity with their students, and they could get points up to 30 minutes a day. And we have several teachers that are doing that, and they do it in little 5 to 10 minute bursts of little physical activity. They have a thing called GoNoodle.com that has your standards with physical activity. Like if they're doing multiplication, they'll have like jog in place and do 3 times 4 equals, and have the students just practice in their multiplication tables with physical activity. So we have that going on too. But anyway, but recess and PE are two.
The other thing, I wanted to, just looking at your chart here, point out that we're getting less money from the government, federal reimbursement, but the cost of food went up, and the number of students for the reduced price meals is up. So kudos to the cafeteria staff for doing such a great job of juggling all that.
You know, healthy food is more expensive.
Doggone right it is. We all know that.
It's more expensive. Until that is remedied.
It'll always be that way,
Yeah.
I'm sure.
There was a thing on the Today Show, I think it was yesterday, talking about brain breaks.
Yeah, brain
Well,
breaks.
they have 4 breaks a day, and they talked about the benefits of the kids come back, their retention seems to be a
We're
little bit
doing
longer.
it. We actually started this last year, before the craze. We started brain breaks.
Good deal.
That's good.
Yeah, we're
And
on top of it.
Is the cafeteria staff still pulling a group of kids together and giving them samples
Mhm.
of food to find
Yes.
out what tastes good and what
They
doesn't?
are. They are, especially these new products. You know, and I will say this to the foods, the people that produce the food, the products that we contract with, they are working very hard, trying to come up with different types of seasonings and flavorings that don't have the sodium content but will enhance the flavor of foods. McCormick right now is doing a whole lot of research on that sort of thing. Yeah, we are doing that. Some of the new products that are being rolled out, we have students that Greta Cecil pulls that will, they're older students, because they'll give her a really good opinion of what they think, But,
They're doing a great job of making cardboard taste good.
Truly. Truly.
Maybe the big question is, what day is Biscuit and Gravy Day?
I'll let you know.
Okay.
But I used to, when I was principal, it used to kill me. I mean, you would just see, oh, wow, look how many kids are eating breakfast today, and it was biscuits and gravy.
It's amazing to me sometimes the things they don't remember, but they know the schedule for the biscuit.
They do. And the Nacho Grande.
The Nacho Grande.
Nacho Grande.
Monday was always chili day,
Oh,
and Friday was something. But
well,
it
it's
was
pizza. It's pizza.
Pizza and corn.
And, yeah, Nacho Grande Day is always on Thursdays. Salisbury Steak Thursday. I get to
Do you anticipate, I think in some schools, everyone has free lunch.
That program's out there.
And don't you have to have a percentage of students, a high percentage of students?
You have a high percentage, and I think we're right on that.
Yeah, I was wondering. if
We're
we're
right
not
on there.
on
Greta
the cusp
Cecil
of
would
that.
be, I can find that out if you all ever want me to report on that. But, there's pros and cons to that
Okay.
with the funding,
Yes.
so.
Is there increased funding for that or not?
I'm not positive. I know that Paducah schools, and I keep up with it because that's where I came from. They have that where regardless if you're free and reduced, all the lunches, but they have a higher percentage, I think, of free and reduced than what we do.
And was there not a school in Nelson County
That does that.
Any other comments or discussion? Excellent. So now,
Thank you.
Thank
we'd
you.
like
Thank you.
to have approval for the nutrition and physical activity report card. Can I get a motion? A second? Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Item 13, approval of the travel authorizations.
We have a few of these. I'm probably going to need to go over these with you. I think the first one is kind of speaks for itself. It's an overnight trip, strings, everything's in good order. We do have a proper number of chaperones and so forth. Our second one is much the same way. It's a speech team trip. It's in March, also overnight. The third one is a trifecta in the sense that it's an out-of-state, it's an overnight, and it is a commercial travel. This is a trip with a Key Club, and they have a 12-to-2 chaperone, so they're in good shape there. And then the fourth one is a special ed trip, and it is an out-of-state. It's just across the river into Jeffersonville, and things are in good order there. I think there's 25 students going, 1 to 13 chaperone. And the fifth one, I want to just take a minute and let's just take a look at it. We're asking you to approve this a year in advance, and we've done this. We do this about every 4 years. I think this would be the 4th or 5th time that we have taken a group of students to the inauguration. And so it is also a trifecta, out-of-state, overnight, and commercial travel. And it would be on January the 19th to the 22nd, 2017. The reason we're bringing it to you in such advance notice is that there are some things we have to do in order to get ready for it. And we don't want to bring it to you in December and people have plane tickets purchased and so forth and so on, and put you in that spot to have to make that decision when they've done all that work. So this would allow them to go ahead and start getting things in order. So the main thing I want you to know that we'll have students sign up this month, January the 27th, for students who have any interest in this. And notice how we're doing this. We're going to have a student sign up, find out who wants to go, and once we find out who wants to go, we'll figure out how that student can go if there's a financial issue in any way. There are some fundraiser ideas that this organization helps us with, and there will also be some scholarships given on an as-need basis. The main thing I want you to understand about this, no one will be left at home if they want to go on this trip. So I broke this down in each individual, but I would recommend if you don't have any concerns or questions that you approve them as a group.
Make a motion to approve.
Just as an added note, my daughter went on this trip and it was excellent. So
Great.
we have a motion to approve. We have a second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Next, item 14 is the approval of the leave of absence requests.
We have 3 maternity leaves, job security here, and they're all the paperwork is in good order. Family Medical Leave Act, we will need an approval for these 3 maternity leaves.
Second.
Those in favor? Those opposed? Item 15, personnel resignation.
I'll let you take a look at that. We do have 2 resignations in our packet this month. I'll just make you aware of those.
And item 16 in your packet is the SBDM council minutes from the previous meetings. If there aren't any further discussions regarding item 16, we'll put for a motion for adjournment.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Is that a second? Those approved?
Aye.
Those opposed?
We have a tendency to do that.
Okay, so that's the end of the regular agenda. We also have the agenda for the School District Finance Corporation. I'd like to call to order the Bardstown Independent School District Finance Corporation. Item 1 is the confirmation of officers.
You will notice in your packet there that the president would be, the chairperson in this case would be Mr. Stone, vice president would be Mr. Franklin Hibbs III. Secretary would be Brent
So we
Holmes.
have to confirm those?
We would need a, yes, we would need a motion to.
So can I get a motion for the confirmation of officers?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Item 2 is the consideration, adoption, resolution authorizing the issuance of revenue bonds.
I'd like to ask Mr. Nance to come forward at this time and walk us through this process.
Yep, thank you. And again, this is the second step of the process. Previously, as the board, we had adopted a resolution authorizing the Finance Corporation to sell bonds for the project. We're now meeting as the Finance Corporation, and we need to adopt the resolution that's presented that actually authorizes the issuance of the bonds. So we presented as the board, now we need to do it as the Finance Corporation. And again, just like I mentioned before, we would anticipate selling bonds February the 3rd, and we would anticipate an average interest rate of about 3% for 20-year financing.
Okay.
And we can either adopt it as presented, or I can read it into the record, whichever you prefer.
If we read it as presented, it will become part of
Yes,
the record.
exactly.
Whatever the pleasure of the board is here, what we're saying is there's Mr. Nance can read what we're going to be doing, or it's right there in front of us. And if we go that way as presented, it will become part of the minutes.
Mr. Nash, would you take the trouble to read it into the record?
Be glad to. Yes, sir. It's a resolution of the Board of Directors of the Bardstown Independent School District Finance Corporation relating to and providing for the issuance of $4,515,000 principal amount, subject to a permitted adjustment of $450,000 of school building revenue bonds in accordance with sections 58.180 and 162.120 through 162.290 and 162.385 of the Kentucky Revised Statutes, to provide funds for school building purposes, providing and determining the duty of said corporation in connection with the operation of the school property, the creation of funds sufficient to pay the principal of and interest on said revenue bonds as and when they mature, the creation of adequate maintenance and insurance funds, and the authorizing execution of a lease of such foregoing property to the Board of Education of the Bardstown Independent School District. And again, this is the standard resolution that we've adopted for all of our construction projects.
We get a motion for approval for the consideration, adoption, resolution issuing the revenue bonds.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? And now the approval for motion to adjourn the Bardstown Independent School District Finance Corporation.
So moved.
In a second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you, Mr. Nance.
Thank you, Bob.